Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. That was our cue to get going. The session is being recorded, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our fifth installment of our Heart of the Matter community conversation. My name is Seth Bernstein. I have the pleasure of serving at United Way of Palm Beach County as the Executive Vice President of Community Investments. And we have a phenomenal group of panelists and a special guest this afternoon to really focus on education and the digital divide that we have here in Palm Beach County. And we'll be teasing out a lot of the components of that and getting words of wisdom from the panelists. Just to do a real quick introduction, just by name and association, we'll get into some further introductions later on. I'd like to introduce Eric Kelly, President of Quantum Foundation. That's him. Reggie, the CEO and founder of For the Children. Suzette from Primetime Palm Beach County, President and CEO. And Mr. Oswald, the Chief of Equity and Wellness at the School District of Palm Beach County. Thank you all for your time this afternoon. And thank you guests that are listening in. You will have the ability to ask questions through the Q&A function. We have disabled the chat function and are very appreciative for you to be here today. So many of you probably know that United Way of Palm Beach County is here throughout the year to provide access to the basics for our residents. That includes access to a quality education, a place to live, financial stability, a good medical care, and enough to eat. So we really provide a lot of health and human services programming, about 110 programs and initiatives that we work with community partners on, and are just really pleased to be able to be here for the community. Today, again, we are focused on education and the digital divide, and I have the distinct honor of introducing our special guest, President Ava Parker, President of Palm Beach State College, and she is here to give her reflections on the past year and the impact on students and how the college is helping students now and into the future. So after President Parker gives her remarks, then we'll go into our panelists and have the questions. So President Parker, thank you so much for being here. The floor is yours.
Seth, thank you so much for the opportunity to participate in this very important conversation. I certainly appreciate the great work that you and Lori do in our community. I think so often things are provided by United Way that we almost take for granted. So thank you for giving it to us anyway, even though we don't always stop and say we appreciate it. Know that we understand the difference that you make in the community in which we live. I am honored to have the opportunity to be a part of the discussion today. I think that as the county's largest higher education institution, it's important that you understand the perspective from which we actually started to see the whole digital divide issue that certainly we knew existed. Certainly we knew it was something that our students experienced, but we certainly felt it much more deeper to our core since the issues erupted with the pandemic. So at Palm Beach State College, we are we are Palm Beach Junior College and Palm Beach Community College all rolled up into one. And the reason that we changed our name to State College is because we also offer bachelor's degrees, but we're still your public college. We're still the ones that have open access institution. We are an open access institution in that we accept students wherever they are, and we bring them into the fold of the college and find ways to support them. When I tell folks, if you want to know what's happening in Palm Beach County, take a look at what's happening with the college, because we have 5 different locations throughout the county, and we have an interesting responsibility of serving students who come to us from Boca, which is the highest socioeconomic zip code in the state of Florida, but also students at our Glades campus, which happens to be the lowest socioeconomic zip code in the state of Florida. So we have a blend of students, and we accept those who were maybe just graduating to those who actually were from the honors college. And what's interesting about us is that we're about a third Black, a third white, and a third Hispanic. And that's where I think our county is right now as it comes to as we come into demographics. And while, yes, I mentioned to you that we offer bachelor's degrees, still a large percentage of our students come to us because they have an interest in short-term programming. That is, that they would like to go and engage in an academic experience that's shorter than 4 years, and it puts them right into the field of work. So we feel a true responsibility to provide the economic support for our county and ensure that we have trained workers right here who are ready to go right into the workforce. I mentioned to you when I started that the last year has really shown us this idea of how large the digital divide really is, because we've been using this term since about 1990. And when I think about it, when I hear it, generally I think about the fact that we have socioeconomic challenge colleagues and citizens within our community who, because of what they maybe did not have financially, did not have access to those things that we have now taken for granted. And what I'd say to you is that with our student population, what we found and what we had to do is that once we realized that the pandemic was real and that it was upfront in all our lives, and once we realized that things had started to shut down, then what we did as an institution is that we actually suspended classes for a week and decided how was it that we could actually ensure that our students still receive their academic experience, even though we had to stay at home, or at least we were supposed to stay inside. And so what we did within that 1 week is that we actually transitioned most of our courses to some type of a remote learning environment. So much like what had to happen with Keith in the school district, we had to make a decision. How is it that we would ensure that our students could continue their academic experience, even though they could no longer come to class? And I'd say to you that was very difficult for us because the secret sauce for us as an institution is that we have master faculty who teach in small classrooms. And the whole idea is they could wrap themselves around the socioeconomic and the academic experience of our students. And so we no longer had that. We had to just rely upon either our classes that were already online, or we had to create this whole Zoom-like atmosphere, very similar to what we have right now, in order to deliver our academic experience. And what we learned is that our students who we thought we could easily access, because we had everything we needed here, we had the infrastructure, we had faculty who were ready to make the change, we were ready to provide the experience for our students, but we found that so many of our students were not ready. That is, that they didn't have the access to hardware, they didn't have the access to the computers that we thought that they had in order to actually engage in the experience. And then they did not have the access to the internet in order to actually ensure that they could participate in the classroom at the given time. So we had to ask ourselves, what is it that we're going to do? And one thing I also will share with you that was shocking for me as well is that I also had some staff members who didn't have the access that we thought that they had at their homes. And so we had to really come together as an institution. And how is it that we were going to ensure that we were remaining responsible for our side of the deal, where we said we're going to provide it for you. And so we were ready to do that. But then we also had to give them something as well, because so many of them did not have. And so that's when we started to do things like, okay, let's buy extra laptops. We can get them in the hands of students, because I bet you about 99% of my students, they have cell phones. And they have cell phones where they probably could engage in some type of classroom experience, but it's not ideal. It wasn't that I don't want my students to rely upon a cell phone as a way to access their class. I mean, it's good in a pinch, but it's not the kind of access we wanted them to have if they were going to actually really be able to participate every day in a classroom experience. And so then once we got the laptops out, then we realized there were still some students who did not have connectivity. And so that's why I really want to give a real big shout out to United Way, because they spent $1.5 million in donations. And with those funds, they purchased Wi-Fi hotspots for students throughout our system and our K through 12 system to ensure they had access. And but for that type of giving from United Way, so many of our students would not have been able to continue in class. But so we also had to find ways to provide hotspots for our students, in addition to the great work that the United Way did during the pandemic. And it's because of that we know that we could at least ensure that we stay connected to our students during this very difficult time. And so I'm so proud of faculty and staff that we did come together and that we were able to use our CARES dollars and actually put these devices into the hands of our students, and proud of our faculty and staff and that they shifted their mode so they were able to learn. You see, we have students, as I mentioned, who come from every walk of life and every socioeconomic status. And we saw the challenges that they were having. And so once again, because I bet you if you thought about it, it's been a while since we started that whole digital divide conversation, because we started to think that everybody had it, but certainly the pandemic reminded us of this opportunity that we needed or the opportunity and the responsibility that we had to ensure that every student has access. So please know that because of the pandemic and because of the changes, we now offer classes in lots of different ways. That is that some students still prefer face-to-face, some students want a Zoom-like experience like this, and some want traditional online. So we offer these options to students because we learned that students can learn in so many different ways. And know that I hope you learned that we also have used our CARES dollars to try to wipe out debts for students. But as you go into your questions, here's the one thing I want to say to you. And this is something that I asked you to think about literally. So years ago, we made a decision. We made a decision as a people that having electricity was important. We made sure that everyone had access to electricity because having that would ensure that you could be safe. You could be warm, in the winter, or you could be cool in the summer. It became considered almost like a basic need. And at some point, and so I understand that, but it can't be if you don't pay your bills that your electric gets cut off. But I can tell you that if you live in Chicago and it's the wintertime, they won't let you do that because they know that it's a matter of life and death. And I'd say similarly, we went through that same kind of transition with the phone. That is that a phone was so important. We thought we had to make sure that everybody had access to a landline. And what I'd say to you is that at this point in the history of our country, that we were also at that point with internet access. It is like water. It is like electricity. It is that thing that is going to ensure our students are connected and that they have the opportunities to advance. And that if we don't figure out a way to actually bridge that digital divide, that we clearly are making a conscious decision to leave students behind. And so what I'd say to the great minds that you've assembled today, Seth, that as you guys come together, I'm depending upon you to come up with a solution, because I know that just based upon what you do every day, you understand the responsibility that we have to ensure that every student has access to that thing that's almost just like water, almost just like electricity, if they are going to have an opportunity to be successful within our country. So thank you very much, Seth.
Wow. Thank you so much, President Parker. It's just incredible to hear how the college pivoted during this time and the amazing support that you're offering to students to try to level that playing field so that they can all be successful in school. I know the college has a strong equity framework, and I think you also have an incentive for students that are
Yes.
registering this year. Do you want to mention that?
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, because Rachel would kill me if I didn't do that. Please know that for any student that takes at least one class with us, that they can receive $1,000 in CARES to help with any of their other needs. So it's not that they can use the money to pay for the class, or they can use their financial aid to pay for the class, and they still can qualify for an additional $1,000 to help meet any other outstanding needs that they have. So whether this is a student who wants to enroll with us through dual enrollment, so that if there's a high school student that wants to take classes with us, or whether it's an adult that's retooling, certainly anyone who decides to come and take a class with us right now for this semester or the spring semester, we do have $1,000 in CARES incentive dollars that we can give them to help them with whatever other needs they might have. So thanks for allowing me to give that shout out for sure.
Absolutely, just another amazing opportunity for students that are coming into the State College. So thank you again. Thank you for your leadership there, President Parker. Thank you for engaging with the community. We at United Way or any one of our systems or institutions, we can't do any of this alone. And we just have such wonderful partnerships in the county that we'll hear some about today and into the future. So thank you for being a partner with us, and appreciate your insights for us this afternoon.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay, great. So let's switch to our panelists that we have here. And if you wouldn't mind just doing a little further introduction of yourself. Reggie, we'll start with you.
Good afternoon, Seth, and thank you so very much for inviting me to share the platform with you. I'm the founder and CEO for the children. Everybody call me Reggie. I have been in this business since September 1999. And one of the reasons that we started for the children was I was working at Barton, and I noticed that during SAC meeting, our parents kept asking us for help with the kids' homework. Therefore, I gathered a group of members from the community, and we started for the children. But at the same time, I was going to be unemployed as well. Therefore, I had to reinvent myself. And I went and met with Tana Iboli, and I told Miss Tana, I need help. And she said, Reggie, what do you need help with? I said, well, I only have $250 under my name, and I need to start this nonprofit. She said, do you have a name? I told her, yes, I have a name. It's for the children, a place where children come first. She said, why? That motto. I told her, well, when I arrived here from Haiti and I reside in Belgrade, and that's the first time I really understood I was a Black person. Because in Haiti, we know we're all Haitians. But when I came here, when I was filling my application, they asked me what race I was. I put other, because I never really identify as either Black. I know I'm Haitian. And when I went to my guidance counselor, she said, why you put other? I said, because I'm Haitian. And Black is not something that we identify with. But to make a story short. Anyway, we started for the children, and I started pretty much with grade K to 5th at Barton Elementary School. And within 3 or 4 years, we were able to get the Beacon Center. We were serving 350 kids daily. Then I noticed that when the kids leave 5th grader and they're gonna go to middle school, there was still a gap in services. That's when I came to Community Foundation. And they gave me my first $15,000 to start a non-traditional program for the middle school. And that was working fine too. Then I noticed again, as the kids leaving middle school, they're gonna go to high school, they were still struggling with academic, with ACT, SAT, all of those other courses. Therefore, I called on CSC again. CSC told me, no, at that time, they want to do middle school and high school. And I forgot whoever was at United Way, and I called them. And they hooked me up with Jim Moran Foundation. And Jim Moran Foundation gave me some dollars. I hired some teachers. And then my first school that I wanted to work with was Liquid High. And we have been in partnership with Liquid High since then. Therefore, at Liquid High, at Boynton Beach High, we do provide academic tutoring for SAT, ACT, for grade 9 to 12, Monday to Thursday. And last year, we served a total of 125 high school kids last year. And that's keep going. Now the parents said, Ms. Reggie, we need something for the little kids. And I said, man, I didn't want to do little kids because I was happy with after school. Then we went on again, and I applied with ELC, and we started doing the kids zone. The kids zone serve kids 3 to 5. Therefore, we serve the whole spectrum of children from 3-year-old all the way to 19. And now, if you were to come to my site, you'll find out many of the kids that were student with us, they are our employees. Therefore, I have seen the whole conveyor belt approach, the kids going from a ladder of system of care, and I like that. But thank God to COVID, it's really opened my eyes. And like I said, For the Children is a place where kids come first. And I want that to continue that legacy. And we started doing succession planning so that when I decided to leave within the next few years, I would love to see one of the kids take over, because they go to the whole system. They know what their needs are. And in a short note, yeah, that's what For the Children is. That's what Reggie is. I live for the children. I breathe for the children. Even my husband said, this thing gonna kill you. Whenever the kids have a problem, you constantly, working at nighttime, find a way. I say, hey, we're one village. All of us here together, United Way, the Quantum Foundation, Dr. Parker, Primetime, Suzette. I can never finish to thank you for everything that you have done for our childcare system. You make us whole, you make us appreciated by parents, because at one time, they thought we were just, washing kids, but we're more than that. And that's what I have to say for now. Thank you.
You bet, Reggie. When I talk about you, Reggie, I talk about you being the real deal. You are a passionate leader and you are doing it for the right reason. And we just love the programming and love your team over at For the Children, and are grateful that you're here today to share your additional thoughts with us. Thank you so much, Reggie.
Thank you.
You bet. Next, Suzette.
Good afternoon, Suzette Harvey, President and CEO of Primetime Palm Beach County. As you see my logo, we've been around for 20 years serving the after-school community. And Reggie, you remind me on why we were here back in the very late 90s. Tana Eberly, who you referred to, she was a former CEO of the Children's Service Council, from which we get most of our funding, looked around and said, there's a very unequal quality in Palm Beach County in after school. We have many kids who have and many kids who have not. So Primetime was formed 20 years ago to address just that. We do that through professional development to practitioners, much like Reggie and all of your staff, that's been incentivized, as well as a quality improvement system where we look at programs all year round to make sure that they're the best that they can be. We also, through additional funding through CSC, as well as the Youth Services Department, provide hands-on learning to children who may not have had such experiences. So we're really here about closing that opportunity gap. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about that and how the pandemic has changed the way we've been able to support children. But that is really what we're here to make after-school programs be the best that they can be and to support the work.
Excellent. Thank you, Suzette. And Primetime Palm Beach County, just another plug. They have a national reputation as being a phenomenal intermediary for out-of-school programming. So kudos to you and your team, Suzette. Another non-stranger to Palm Beach County. Next up is Eric. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Eric Kelly, and I have the honor of serving as the president of Quantum Foundation. I'll stop there and see if I can weave some of the other things in through the questions.
Sounds great, Eric. Yeah, another individual that's been in Palm Beach County for quite a number of years. I first met Keith back in '99 when he was principal at South Grade Elementary School, and now he's chief. So you got to call him Chief Oswald. Mr. Oswald.
Thank you, Seth. And good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to be part of this panel on this important topic. And I think, as you said earlier, it's through the partnerships, and President Parker really laid out the issue of equity when it comes to internet access. So I look forward to having that conversation. I have been with the school district for many, many years, so kind of know all the ins and outs, but really most proud of the work through COVID and how we have come together to solve some very complex problems.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Mr. Oswald. So not sure who wants to kick off responding to this first question, but President Parker kind of laid out the issue quite well. There's been such inequities and access to technology. The first question is around that. So in what ways are the limited access to technology impacted the academic as well as social emotional learning opportunities for our young people? Who'd like to start us off with that, with an answer to that or commentary?
May I start off with that?
Please, yes.
Because, and this is one of those moments I'll leave it in, because we're a health foundation. We were created out of the cell of a hospital. So I'm sure people would say, why is a health foundation on a panel talking about students and education? Well, the reality is there are so many social factors that influences health and vice versa. Health factors and other factors influence education. We got involved because what we realized was that all of these social factors that influence health are also influencing the full circle of the human person. And so I think that not only were students impacted by the things that President Parker mentioned, but they were also impacted by the fact that, their parents may not have been able to access job opportunities via the internet. Many of these children live in multi-generational homes. They probably had grandparents that they've watched suffer with diabetes and hypertension and all of these other diet-related diseases who would normally go to their physician, who needed to then move on to an electronic platform. And so they had to watch grandparents not be able to be well. And so their social emotional wellness wasn't just the impact that was being seen in the school, but the reason we got involved because the entire family was impacted by the lack of access to technology. And so that I really wanted to bring that note to bear because as a health foundation that recognizes housing, education, employment, race and racial oppression and things like that, all of these things impact an entire household. So I believe that the kids' social emotional wellness was impacted not just by the fact that they could not access their learning platforms, but because they saw so many other challenges going on in their families at the same time.
Great, thanks for that commentary. Right, this is not a new issue, right? I mean, it was amplified by the fact that folks were trying to learn remotely, and lots of factors go into this issue. So thanks for highlighting that. Anyone else want to comment on this question?
I'll just add on to what Eric had said. So not only the whole family unit and those type of issues that have come up, but when we look at straight numbers, when we look at student outcomes, we know that, what occurred last year, we had great drops in student achievement across the state. We saw double-digit drops in math achievement, 3, 4, 5% drops in reading achievement. So we know a lot of that comes from the access to the internet, but then just being able to learn in that type of a setting is not for all students. So there was a great effect on student achievement as it relates to this particular issue, as well as the social emotional factors. We do know that the mental behavioral health issues that have continue to go up, more access to the services here in Palm Beach County. Our numbers continue to rise, especially with the partners that we work with throughout Palm Beach County to get access for that type of support.
Yeah, and that's, let's dive into that a little bit more, Mr. Oswald. And this is, for you or anybody. We've already said that it takes a community to help impact, positively impact these issues for our young people and our young adults. So what are the community efforts in the school district doing around strategies to tackle helping students coming out of the pandemic, coming back into school, and any additional support around the digital divide or the other supports that youth and families need? So a big question. So have at it. Start anywhere in that question.
I'll jump in. I don't want to jump in too much here, but so I'll say the biggest thing that we're tackling as a community is really the access to Wi-Fi. So the issue that President Parker laid out. So we have a project that's going on right now in Palm Beach County where there's multiple partners from the county, Quantum, United Way, the list goes on of those who have come together to say that access to Wi-Fi shouldn't be just for those that are most privileged. So essentially what we are doing is creating putting these polls up in communities. So when we first went to remote learning, when we looked at how many students were actually going on into their classes and who wasn't, we could kind of identify communities and areas where there were low access to internet. So many of the partners, such as we just mentioned, provided the hotspots, the access to Comcast, et cetera. So we kind of put a Band-Aid on the situation, but really we wanted to look at the long-term solution. So accessing, putting these poles up in communities where we know there's a lack of internet access, accessing the Wi-Fi mesh, so that we can push out and provide to families who qualify for free and reduced lunch. Actually have one of these Wi-Fi mesh, one of these devices in their household, so that they're able to get free access to the internet. The first municipality that is about to go live is out in Belglade. So we're pretty excited for that community and all the partners. And I have to do a big shout out to Michael Butler and County and Virginia, who's really put a lot of dollars behind this project as well. So we're pretty excited and hope to get up to 25,000 families this type of access for long-term solutions.
That's amazing. And Eric, I know Quantum Foundation has had a coordinated role in part with working with the business community with this effort. And, so a big shout out to you and your team, who has done the research along this and working with the district and the county. Any other comments about that system type approach?
Here's what I'll do. I do have some thoughts about it, and I'll wait to see if I can weave that in, because I know Suzette and Reggie hadn't had much time yet on air. So I'm going to hold that thought, because I do have some thoughts about it, Seth, and I'm going to weave it in. I'll weave it in. I'll hold it though. Excellent.
Excellent. Yep. So, so any other thoughts, Reggie and Suzette, about the community's efforts to help students and families tackle this digital divide and and help them with their learning and development from a social emotional or an academic standpoint? Suzette, do you want to?
Sure.
You want to go?
I mean, we've been very dependent on the systems that are providing the Wi-Fi, because Primetime heretofore has been a very hands-on organization. I have a pretty robust team that was working one-on-one with after-school directors and practitioners, modeling best practices in programs. Reggie, you can attest to, we are always out there, and then once the pandemic hit, we had to do things differently. So we are all virtual, and it's because of the availability of the systems for us to be able to bring our services to basically after-school staff who work with those families. And our space is very complementary to what the district does. We never say after school, replicates what's happening during the school day. That's not our space, but it's to complement and to give children that that literal space to be children, where you can play, you can try things, you can fail, you can succeed, you can just learn to be a citizen. And that means going through conflict, going through successes. And now, because we're virtual, how do we do that and still maintain quality? And many of the communities that we serve are not ones that had a lot of resources. So we're spending time, money, and effort through our partnerships. So I want to shout out to President Parker that we've had a long partnership with the college for college career coursework that goes up to a BA that is fully supported and paid for by the Children's Services Council, that we can have these young people, or some older folks, mostly it's 18 to 24, are working with those after school programs. So now that we've been able to teach them how to engage virtually, how to make it interactive, how to keep kids involved. And that's been very important for our workforce, who have been so hands-on and have been very stressed themselves. So they may not have known how to use Zoom and Google Classroom and all those things, and we're giving them tips on how to do that. It's very important to understand where we are right now. We also, for middle school kids, are giving them space to come together and talk about what's happening, what are you feeling, how are you adjusting to being not with your friends, not in clubs, having stress in school, not being able, as Mr. Oswald just talked, learning is different. Some kids can do well virtually, some kids don't. So how are we being supportive on showing those adults in the room how they can work with children and families through this new way of working?
For me, the COVID really hit us hard, because at first, when the COVID started, who are doing okay. But when kids and staff are getting infected by the virus, then we have to move on online. And technology-wise, we're not ready. And I called on United Way, and I called on the Lucia Foundation, and I called the Department of Education because we have a 21st Century grant. They were able to allow me to purchase 70 laptops, 25 tablets, and we purchased like 10 to 15 hotspots, because as we were calling the parents and the kids, and we even had to make home visits, because many of the parents lost their job, their phone disconnected. Therefore, I really have to create a community around myself and the kids so that we can reach out to the children. Then as we were calling the parents, we find out not only their cell phone disconnected, internet disconnected, some of them did not have a laptop. And for those who did have the school district laptop, it's either their internet was too slow, the kids were complaining that they could not log in online, and that's when we went and buy additional hotspot for them. But emotionally and physically, our kids also were affecting with a lot of abuse in the home, because now mom and dad are not working and they were constantly at it. Therefore, as I was working with the Lucia Foundation, I asked them, is there a way that, because our Youth Empowerment Center, which is middle school and high school, only open from 3 to 7. And I needed additional dollars so that we can open the site in the morning for those kids who are going virtual to have that support. Because some of the complaints that the kids were bringing towards Miss Reggie, now if mom was at work, dad was at work, I'm the one who's taking care of my brother and sister. I'm becoming the teacher. In the meantime, my work was also being left behind. Therefore, what we did, then we opened our site, we opened the gym, and I want to give kudos to the city of Lakewood. They allow us to use the gym, the Oswald Center, with the local foundation United Way. I was able to upgrade our internet system from $200 a month to now almost $500 so that we can have more bandwidth, so that we're not slowing down the kids. But at the same time as well, when the kids tell me, they couldn't do anything because they have to take care of their siblings. And I'm blessed because I have United Way, I have ELC, and I have Prime Time, who came up online with the STEM, which was very helpful to us. And United Way gave us the funding to not only upgrade our system by additional hotspot, it really helped the kids. But it still left, that pain, because the kids were dealing at home with domestic violence. Mom doesn't have a job. And I was at a meeting with Healthier Lakewood, and I told them, the parents need more than just internet. They cannot pay their light bill. Foreclosure is up in the rise. And Palm Healthcare Foundation came with an initiative they call Neighbors Helping Neighbors. They were able to provide funding to us. And what we were able to do to that funding was partner with City of Lakewood to pay pretty much anybody who was like four months behind in their rent or utilities. We were able to pay a lot of the receipts for the parents. But at the same time, as people in our community where I am, even like as of right now, are dying with the COVID, we noticed that a lot of them were not ready to do burial. Therefore, we're able to use some of that funding to assist some of our parents with burials, fees, food and other stuff like that. And right now we are dealing with the same thing. But going online wasn't really good for my kids, because I have seen kids going from consecutively 4.0 down to 2.87, because they have so much burden placed on them. Not only they have to maintain their schoolwork, they also have to take care of their siblings while dealing with other mental health issues at home. And the county was very helpful on Gita, Ike. Not only we have our own mental health program, but it was only for 50 families. And we're able to partner with them. We're able to partner with Chrysalis to send some of those parents to mental health services. Now, one thing I want to say, because when we keep using the word access, we can give people access, but they have to have the bandwidth capacity to maintain the number of kids that are using that service. Because if it wasn't for United Way and the Luca, I don't know what would have done, because after, when we have 50 kids at one site, even myself doing my work in the back office, we've been affected by that because the system becomes so slow. And we partnered with Comcast lately, and they provide us with a Live Zone. Live Zone is good too, but again, we need higher bandwidth to be able to accommodate all the children that you have on site.
And
That's
just
something for us to think about.
Dr.
Yeah.
Bernstein, before you go further, here's what I will say. Reggie did a much better job saying what I was trying to say, and that is, for the children who live in the communities that we're all talking about, it's not just about technology for education's sake. These kids were watching their parents suffer, their grandparents suffer. Reggie, I love that example of the kid dropping from a 4-point GPA to like a 2-point something. And I wish we could do some research on this to figure out, was it just because of the academics, or was it because of all of these other factors that these children were struggling with? As a matter of fact, I would posit that we really need to, particularly for the families we're all talking about, we really need to talk more inclusively about the students and their families, because it's not just the student. These students can only do what they can do, even with access to the internet. What's going on with their families is actually, believe it or not, more important than their education, if they've got to choose between learning and mom and dad now fighting if they've never seen that before. And Reggie, when you said that, I was like, aha. As a matter of fact, I did like this. And I wasn't shaking my finger at you. I was saying, yes, Reggie, that's it. These kids have seen things now that they didn't see before. They felt things hadn't felt before. So that's what I'm also hoping can happen and come out of this, that we don't just get fixated on the technology and lose sight of the fact that the kids and families we're talking about, so I would hope that we would say students and their families, it is much broader. And this is equity. So equality is, we gave all of these kids internet, now we expect them all to learn. Equity asks the question, now what changes have occurred because of historical factors that these kids who are now learning, even at home, what's different in their lives that we've now got to go back in and help to repair. And Reggie, all the examples you gave about Palm Healthcare and the county, we know what United Way is doing, the school district and all, like that is equity. And I am so proud to be a part of this funding and learning community that's recognizing equity is going in after all of those things that kids like my kids, I'm a middle-class guy. I'm Black, but I'm middle class. My kids don't have to worry about those things. But all of these other children and their families are worried about it. And I'm so glad we're putting in the additional resources, which is equity, not equality, additional resources for these families that other families may not need. So Reggie, thank you so much for articulating what my heart was saying, which is, it's not just about the learning. The learning is important, but these children cannot learn when they're now experiencing things in their homes that they have not seen before.
Yes, thank you.
Excellent, Eric. And right, we've been talking about, funding disproportionately in communities that we most care about, to try to elevate and assist the families and the kids and the community better, and purposefully and intentionally doing that. Our kids and families have, they've had stress above anxiety, above depression, above trauma. It's like traumas on traumas, I would say, over the past year and a half, built on other historical traumas. So it kind of, is overwhelming at times. So, to move us just a spec, I'm wondering how our youth are doing as schools are back in person and in that environment. Curious from Keith, your perspective, Reggie, if you have other student perspectives, or Suzette or Eric, what you're hearing, how are they coping?
Yeah, it's been quite an interesting opening of the school year. Obviously, our biggest challenge right now is COVID and dealing with positive COVID cases on our campuses, and then, putting students on the stay home directives as outlined by the stay home directive decision tree from the Department of Education and the Department of Health. So we're putting, hundreds and hundreds and thousands of kids in quarantine. Here we go back again with the lack of just access, right, to what we had last year is not necessarily there to the fullest extent for those students who are home dealing with the quarantine status. So we're working closely with the healthcare district and the Department of Health to try to come up with some additional solutions to get our kids back quicker. So more to come on that topic. That's been quite a challenge. When we talk about the social emotional factors, kids have been home for a year and a half and now back in school. And we're seeing some of the effects of that with our students. So we do know, fortunately, again, in Palm Beach County, we stepped up as a community a couple of years back and supported the referendum. So we have behavioral health professionals on all our campuses because of that referendum. Our agency, our partner agencies throughout Palm Beach County, 30, 40 agencies, and many of those which work directly on our school campuses. The kids are using these, the families are using these services. We see it, the numbers, are extremely high. So we're going to have to continue to explore and add additional resources in this particular space as we deal with those particular challenges. But it's definitely been a rocky road. On top of all that, though, we do know that the kids are excited about being back in school, even though it's different and trying to get back to some sense of normalcy. So once we get more of these positivity rates down, I think things will get better. And obviously, the great mask debate, hopefully eventually we can put that to rest so that we can not have that issue on the table either and just get back to good old fashioned learning. So.
Yeah, amen on that one. I'd also just like to thank the district for the dedication that you've had to developing your behavioral mental health department and all the resources that the schools have. And that referendum is going to be coming up again, Keith, in a year and a half or so, maybe. So it's something we as a community, need to look at and get behind the district and, in whatever way that you're going to be looking to re-up that. But, I think we'd all agree that the behavioral and mental health supports at all different levels need to be there for our youth and for our families, and really for everyone. I mean, we still are as a state, one of the worst funded state mental health and substance abuse systems in our country, and our residents here deserve so much better. And from a traditional intervention perspective, but also from a non-traditional perspective of other self-care like meditation and yoga and all other ways that folks can take care of themselves. But I know we're doing some system level work around that. I know the district and probably all of you are involved in that as well. So we appreciate that. Any other commentary about just youth going back to school and what that's like?
My kids love it. They're back home. Yeah, they love it. And one thing that we do right now, we do something that they call check-in. Check-in is when the kids come in after school, we see them in a circle and we ask them, if it's on Monday, how was your weekend? What went at home? And during school at time as well, we do the same thing with them every day, so that we give them a little room to just, breathe in and breathe out. What's going on and so on. And yeah, the kids love it. They're back in their village now. They're not hide at home, taking care of things that shouldn't be a kid's responsibility, but they have to do whatever they have to do to make things work at home. They're happy to be back. Yep,
and our kids are resilient as heck, right? And if we adults are staying positive too, hopefully they're gonna be as resilient as they can, given the challenges that we've talked about in the past and are talking about here. So just to let the audience know that you're welcome to ask questions in the Q&A. There's one question about internet companies having low or no cost internet service for families, and those certainly are available. As Reggie said, there could be some challenges with the bandwidth. So if you have more than 3 people on it at any time, it may not be something that works well. But any resource that we have like that, we'll certainly put together in an email after today's meeting. Mr. Oswald, sorry, you were going to say something.
No, just since returning back to school, one other issue that we're working on that we're going to be collaborating with many partners here, and many who are attending today, is the issue. We've got a list of about 2,000 kids that we have yet to be able to identify their location. So, we have to get boots on the ground to actually track these students down. So this is kind of from start of the pandemic to now, that we can identify in another state, another school district. Some that we have found, we do know that some students have had to take on employment, right, to help the family out, to deal with the cost of housing and just basic needs. So it's a real issue that I think it's going to have further discussion to address and support these particular families that are in very difficult situations where we haven't been able to get these kids back to school.
And Kate, to add to what you're saying, we have kids also who had moved out of the area completely because mom couldn't afford paying the home, and they moved to Canada, Virginia and other places. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be another challenging year, probably more than this year. Suzette, I know we don't have, we have about 8 more minutes today, and welcome to get questions from the audience to the Q&A. But I'm wondering, any other words from you about the out-of-school support services and how you've been able to reimagine your services, and you've talked a little bit about it, but wanted to see if there was anything more that you'd like to add.
So one of the major pieces of our work is to provide hands-on learning to after-school programs that traditionally may not have had those opportunities. And we have done this for more than a decade with partners, more than 24, many of them that you might know, the Palm Beach Zoo and the Science Center and Center for Creative Education, all really hands-on. So when the pandemic hit, what did they do? So proud to say that our partners had pivoted and figured out how to create interactive content that still would be able to engage the children, knowing that they had probably spent the day on their laptops or their computers. And we don't want to have more of the same. But somehow they have been able to continue to serve. I think last year we still served 22,000 students through these partners by doing hands-on virtual. So many of them would deliver supplies to the site, so the kids still would have, some manipulative, so they can practice whatever they're going to do, particularly for STEM. And I know Reggie had mentioned our STEM program, and we provide the sites with not only training, but then an opportunity for the kids to experiment. One of the most popular ones was Digital Vibes. That is really a dance-based exercise program that the kids love. Could you imagine after sitting at the computer to be getting up and to be able to dance? And this was, K-8. I don't know if your high school students also love it. Everyone seems to love it. The YMCA, to be able to bring that movement back to children, because it's so important to look at that. We talk about social emotional learning. The children have to be able to express themselves in that way. And Keitha, you had mentioned, the behavioral health supports that you're doing. We're involved in a multi-year project with the district on social emotional learning, and it really is giving those after-school staff in those centers strategies to work with the kids on developing the self-awareness or the social awareness, being able to just step back and do some breathing exercises, and it has been shown it's made a difference. We entered into the pandemic, and I'm like, oh my goodness, they're not doing the training anymore, the one-on-ones. We did an assessment, and it showed the children in the after-school programs who are in this special initiative are doing better because they're applying those strategies to just calm down, understand their own selves, understand their situation, to be able to do some conflict resolution, because everyone's stressed, right? And so by giving both children and adults these skills, and we're also working with the families, does make a difference when you're in this environment, when unlike anyone that we have experienced before. So I really want to shout out to those partners who have pivoted and have continued to serve the children. Right now, they're still going into sites, that if things change, we're ready, on the dime to turn around and to still do these hands-on learning virtually. And it's all about the fun and letting kids be kids.
That's fantastic, Suzette. Just a real quick story about Digital Vibes. Also, we love them and Will and his team. So I had the opportunity during May's Mental Health and Trauma Informed Care Month to join him and his team at the detention center. And we had a couple of sessions talking about mental health, and they put a rap song together. But they put on a tune. Some of you may know it. It's The Message from Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. And yours truly is on. There's a video out there somewhere with yours truly singing The Message with the young folks at the detention center.
I want to see that.
I want to see that too.
If anyone else knows it, we can do it. We can do it another day. But those types of activities for our young people certainly, will keep their spirits up and keep them learning and engaged in education for sure. So thanks for sharing that.
And Seth, I want to say thank you also. The helpers. Our staff love it because again, we were all just doing our best we can do. While I myself, I lost 4 family members to the COVID. I lost one of my staff. I lost 2 volunteers, and tried to help our family. It was good to be acknowledged. The money wasn't a big chunk of money, but really, I was able to go braid my hair, do my nails, do something for myself, and the staff really appreciate that. And if you guys can find a way to do more help the helpers, United Way, Jim Warren, Quantum, please.
Right.
Remember the workers, they work hard.
Yeah, and I mean, you certainly don't have to thank us in this setting, Reggie, but again, it's about collaborations. So whether it's about collaborations helping our nonprofit community and their employees and their well-being, or collaborations that are looking at students and their families, we are all in this together. There's no doubt about it. Palm Beach County has been that way, for the 28 years that I've had the pleasure of being here. So thank you. But, we really appreciate the nonprofit community and all of our partners. Okay, so we have just a couple minutes left. Are there other comments that anyone would like to make that you would like to share with the audience?
Seth, the last thing I'll say is, we do focus a lot of conversation today on the students and getting Wi-Fi to the homes where students live. I will say that we were able to be a part of a collaborative where we're also providing what's called technology navigators, community-based technology navigators who will go into the home and look at do an assessment of all of the need there. So some of the students, there are homes where students aren't living, that those families still need access. So fortunately, here in the county, talking about partnership, there's also that service out there now for those homes that do not have students. Those homes can also get access to the internet. So Community Partners, which is the organization that's leading that effort, it's good for us to have been a part of the community-based technology navigators as well.
Excellent point, Eric. And if there are anyone on this video, or if you're watching the recording of it and you've heard something that you'd like to come volunteer for or help support in any way, please be in touch with us for sure. So it is getting to that 1 o'clock time, and let's keep on target here. So with that in mind, I'd like to first thank President Parker for your comments at the beginning and your inspiration for us, and Eric, Reggie, Suzette, and Keith. I know we will be seeing you soon, and appreciate your dedication to our community and to those that we serve each and every day. We exist because of our community and what their needs are. So
Seth, there was a question about the technology navigators. I can't get the link this quickly, but can you get it out to everybody on here? Can we get that out?
Absolutely, Eric. You bet.
Okay.
You bet. So everyone that has attended today will get an email from United Way of Palm Beach County with each of your bios and connections to your organization, but any resources that we've talked about here. And if you have any follow-up questions, you're welcome to ask, and we'll route it to the right person to answer that. But very much appreciate your time. Love working with you all, and can't wait to continue doing great things here in Palm Beach County. But thank you all so much. Thank you for attending. And so we will have our 6th Heart of the Matter event later in the year in November, mid-November, the 17th, and we'll be looking at and talking about the faces of homelessness, another very critical issue here. So thank you all again. Appreciate your time, and be well. Take care of yourselves.